Hey, what's up? I had to take care of a crying cat just a few seconds ago. I think anytime that I say I'm going to do a live video, something happens right before, and there she goes walking by. Hi, Sasha. So nobody in the stream yet, so it gives me just a few minutes to get things set up. I've got a huge stack of books here, which you can't quite see. I'm one of those people that went to Walmart, saw this empty thing, and was like, can I have this? Walmart manager's like, normally we throw those away and destroy them, but if you want to save me the job, go ahead. So as you can see, I've got the Titans here for talking about the Lazarus contract. So if you can see down in the bottom here, again, I want to apologize. If you go back to the last one of these that I did, I was saying, I'm going to go through this and I'm going to do this weekly. Yeah, right, Rob. We've heard that before. As you can see, I've got a fallen menagerie of action figures. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Overtime this year, please go shop at Lowe's. This isn't a plug for Lowe's, but I've been doing a lot of overtime, so make it worth it for me. The overtime season for us for the spring and summer rush was just really crazy. And if I have to see it at work right now, I'm going to tell you about it. I have been sorting Christmas trees at work. That's right. I said Christmas trees. So if I have to see Christmas trees, you have to hear about it. Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. So a little side story about my job real quick. I put things into a trailer on equipment and stuff like that. In one trailer, in about an hour's worth of time, we had Halloween decorations come down, Thanksgiving decorations and things like that, and Christmas trees, all in an hour's worth of time. So yeah, that's my life right now. So anyway, I work rather than give up. This sounds really stupid, and that's not why you signed on to the show, but just to give you a little back history of kind of why the Comic Corners, which the show has now been changed to Rob Jogues DC Comic Show. I found so many other shows that are called Comics Corner, but I wanted something different to myself, so this is just generic. But when we work overtime, they have us do, since I work days, it's only Monday through Thursday, to work a scheduled, they don't like to use the word mandatory, but scheduled time. You've got to work the weekend shift of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but they rotate that. So you'd work Friday during the day shift one day, 1 week, then the next week you would work Saturday, then the next week you'd work Sunday, then you get a week off. I didn't want to give up my Saturdays and Sundays and try and figure out what I was doing. So I decided to work the Friday night shift instead. It's a lot slower, but that means I would switch to a night shift, basically like second or third shift schedule. So by the time I got up, it was 1 in the afternoon or 2 or something like that. I didn't feel like getting on camera and talking about books because I was tired and all that stuff. Anyway, hopefully I can get back on track, and I may do some pre-recording stuff. I'm trying to decide if people like this live format, so Automatica can talk to me and get me distracted, which I like the interaction. Hopefully we'll get some people interacting here. I'm also going to say, spoilers, FYI, Automatica, if you have not read these books, and just plug your ears. I probably won't go into, like I've said before, there are so many books that I'm covering, and you can see down in the description the books that I'm going to go through. I'm going to try to go through them in order that I put them in. I think I remember. But like Batman, I'm going to talk about the whole basically 2-year run of Rebirth, not page by page. Obviously, we'll be here till November. But just kind of the broad strokes. And my goal is, like I've said before, is to get caught up to where I'm just talking about single issues, that I can be more in depth. This is kind of, a very loosey-goosey is the only word I can think to describe, of like on the Drake podcast, and we're getting ready to launch Batman and Robin Eternal podcast, as podcast reviewers and whatever, we go through the books a lot in more detail. I'm not going to obviously be able to do that here. There she is. Did everybody hear that? Hi, Sash. Yeah, you're sad and just woke up from your 20-hour nap. Anyway, so yeah, Automatica here has just said she shouldn't be here. She's only read, the book she's read are The Casting and the Forge. So yeah, Sasha sounds like she's dying. She didn't have any water, So I had to put water in her food bowl. So anyway, so enough of the rambling. Let's get all that out of the way. I've gotten behind in my comic book reading. Obviously, if I'm talking about 24 issues of Batman, that's 2 years worth of stories. And just with working in overtime and kind of life getting in the way, I got behind on my comics. And once I started reading through a lot of these, I was like, man, I can't believe I wasn't reading them as they were coming out. So that's my goal, is to get back on track. Doing a couple podcasts has kind of set me behind because I'm reading older comics and those podcasts. So it's all excuses, right? So let's get into some of this stuff. I believe the first book I had up was Batman. So right off the bat, this is obviously Batman 24. I'm going to obviously talk about the button a little bit. So again, spoilers and always if you haven't read any of these. This book, I believe, is going into its 4th printing. So this is printing number 1. So already this book is becoming a high commodity just because spoilers, I'm going to quit saying spoilers. You know it's coming. Batman has proposed to Catwoman, which if you read the button, my button issues are up there on the wall. I've got them signed by Jason Fabok, the lenticular covers. I do have a newsstand edition of Flash. Was it 22? So most people know basically about the button and all of that. But, you know, Bruce travels back in time. I'm going to kind of interweave through the Batman titles to kind of give you an overall my thoughts and opinions of Tom King's Batman run. You know, Bruce travels through the multiverse with the Flash, and you know, goes back to the Flashpoint era. So he finally gets to see his father again, and his father tells him they get a chance to see each other face to face, and basically the gist of that story for Bruce is stop being Batman, be a father to your son. So what does Bruce do when he returns home? Catwoman, can you marry me? Did your dad not just tell you to go be a father to your son, not get hooked up with the first floozy in a Catwoman suit? I know. So I think it's about making, you know, choices and being happy, which I think this all ties into the inner workings of Rebirth as a whole. Could be Dr. Manhattan, could be Mr. Oz. I think a lot of us have new ideas of who Mr. Oz is out there. You know, I want to say my 2 possible ideas, and I think they're both just from, could be either or from what I read, because I kind of want to get it on film to be like, Rob called it, but I'll wait till somebody chimes in if they want to hear my replies. But anyway, hearing a couple of things that it could be Oz or Dr. Manhattan is trying to put the heroes of Earth, to take them out of the game or take them off table, like Tim Drake, to weaken them in some way. If maybe that really wasn't Thomas Wayne that Batman was interacting with and was wanting to, or put that version of Thomas Wayne in Bruce's head to make him not be Batman, and great, he's going to be a husband and a father, and it's going to weaken him as Batman possibly, or whatever. So that's kind of like a running plot thread that's kind of going through some of the books, which is kind of what's happening to Superman a little bit in his book and in Action Comics. Green Arrow is going through some stuff recently. Deathstroke is going through some big changes in his book. So a lot of these could be plot points or threads that are slowly being weaved through the DC universe that could be from the hands of the Watchmen themselves or from Mr. Oz. I keep saying Dr. Oz. He's on TV as TV Doctor. My arm hurts, Dr. Oz. So that's a take that I heard from somebody, that it's a version of Thomas Wayne that's messing with Batman, that he's potentially stepping down as Batman or could die or whatever, but it's to throw all the heroes of Earth off their kilter. So through the, what is it? I am Bane, I am Suicide, I am Vengeance thing. I forget what all those titles were. But through the whole run of Tom King's Batman. I really like Tom King's Batman, but there's something, I don't know, there's something a little off about his Batman at times that I don't know if maybe I'm just more in tune with James Tynion IV's Detective Comics Batman. I like what he's doing in Batman, but, and I'm probably gonna, somebody's probably gonna scream at me, I don't think it's the end-all be-all book, the Batman book in DC. I really think the Batman book is the Detective Comics book, but I can understand where people are like, I just want to read Batman singularly. And you've got All-Star Batman, you've got Detective Comics, you've got Batman. Batman is in the Justice League. Batman is in Justice League America, which I've recently dropped. I'll get into that, my drop books here in just a little bit. So you have Batman in his main core book, which I still really do like the Batman book. Don't get me wrong. It's not my favorite of the Batman bunch, but that doesn't mean it's the least by any stretch of the imagination. I've stopped at 24 just because I've been reading other stuff. So I have not got into the jokes, or the war of jokes and riddles, which I hear is very good. And I've liked the Bane issues in this. The I Am Suicide, that storyline that King was writing, where every writer wants to put a new spin or a new take on the things that go in Batman's head. Sorry, take a drink. So I understand he wanted to add a different layer where Bruce Wayne might have been contemplating suicide at one point because of the death of his parents. And hearing people say, oh, Bruce Wayne, you know, wouldn't go down to that route or wouldn't put himself in harm's way or do something like that to himself. I think losing somebody at an early age, especially if you're a child and it's a very traumatic situation, I could understand why somebody might entertain that notion of like, life is over. There's nothing more to live for. Chester from Lincoln Park, you know, in most recent, Chris Cornell. At some point, I understand. I don't want to turn this into a whole suicide thing, but I understand at some point that somebody goes, "This is it. Life sucks. Life's over." It's having that moment and getting that help and getting beyond that point of going, tomorrow's a new day. Could be a better day. It could be another day of the same crap that you're already dealing with, and that sucks. But it's moving past and beyond that, and that's what King was doing in the I Am Suicide story arc, that where all these, you know, were kind of connected together. So I looked at that and was like, okay, if Bruce Wayne toyed with that idea of, I've lost my parents, I've got literally nobody in the world right now, what's it going to matter if I'm gone too? And then he has to break through and get past that point and realize what happened to his parents, why that has angered him so much, and that moves him into becoming the vigilante that we all know and love. So I think some people were really taken aback by that. We're like, Batman wouldn't do that. I think a lot of us have been saying Batman wouldn't do that in certain situations. But at the end of that run, I was like, all right, I can understand that. I can get behind that thread. As I'm looking to make sure, I thought I had the other books with me. I apologize, I do not. The I Am Bane story, like all of these stories kind of intermixed. And Catwoman has been a main focal point after the first, the I Am Gotham storyline. I Am Gotham, that was the other one. The I Am Gotham storyline. Then it went to I Am Suicide, then I Am Bane. So I thought that was how King kind of tied all those together, which I really do. I'm more of a fan of King now than I was at the beginning of Batman. I loved him on Grayson, so I was really excited that he was doing Batman. But the I Am Gotham kind of just felt like it was just plodding along for a while. So I think that's kind of where I took a step back from King for a little bit and the Batman title, and was reading other things. And of course, I got behind on everything. Of course, you know, dealing with the fallout from the Button and Bruce Wayne and Barry both finding the Button and working on that aspect together, going back into the Flashpoint, and then also putting Bane in his place. And it was looking like Batman was going to get his back broken and his body torn. And the Psycho Pirate was also a part of that story as well. And I wish I had it here. I'm paraphrasing this, but there was a great line from Batman. There's something to the effect of, you know, you can come at me, you can beat me all you want, but I'm still here. I am Batman. So it was kind of like tying everything together. Bane had trapped Batman in a watertight dungeon, and I think it was also at that point Batman was almost kind of at the verge of giving up, and then kind of pulled through it. So King knows I kind of really pull at those Batman heartstrings, if you were, for lack of a better word. It's been a really solid run, and again, this kind of contradicts what I just said a few minutes ago. But it's not my favorite, but he's doing something different, and I'm okay with that. And he's taken Batman in different places, and I think after 75 years, I'm tired of the whole trope of let's kill Batman and put somebody else in the Batman suit. I'm tired of seeing that, but seeing Batman act in different ways and going to like an Earth 2 universe, if you will, of Batman being married to Catwoman, having a daughter that was Helena, you know, I would kind of be okay. Like, would they have a kid like Superman and Lois do? You know, how does Damian fit into this, you know, dynamic? That's what I would really like to see. Like, Bruce has a son. Let's not forget that Damian Wayne is out there alive and kicking ass in his own 2 books, which are really good. I'm only going to talk about one of them today. Super Sons will be next, I promise. So I want to see Catwoman and Damian butt heads, and I want to see Damian kind of be pissed off at Catwoman and like, what's your end game here? Why are you with my father? I don't trust you. And trying to see Bruce. I want to see that father-son dynamic take place that's completely different than it is in the Superman book, where John and Clark get along. They understand each other. Superman's trying to rein in John's powers and make sure he's not going, you know, to Mach 10 right away, where Damian's a little spitfire and isn't going to take crap from Bruce, and especially Selena, like, you're not my mom. You know, my mom can kill you, that type of thing. So I'd really like to see that play out in the King story, the King run version of Batman. I wish I could talk more on the jokes and riddles. I'm just getting ready to start reading that today. I just didn't have it up for this particular run right here. But this is my second favorite Batman book. I really like Detective because it just has all of my favorite characters in there, minus Tim Drake, which that'll be coming up very soon. So this has been good. I think with Metal going on, King decided to go back and do a prequel stuff with the War of Jokes and Riddles. So you leave us on this literal cliffhanger with them on a roof and Batman proposing to Catwoman, and then we go back in time to the 0 year storyline that Snyder did in that universe and figure out what the Joker and Riddler were doing along with Batman. So that's kind of why I'm like, why did you do that? But, you know, I think we're going to set everything up after all the Metal stuff plays out here. So anyway, the next set of books, and this is I'm going to try and put this down the best way that I can. 3 titles, which I think I'm missing a book. So this is the Lazarus contract. That will be Titans, Teen Titans, Deathstroke, and Teen Titans again. Those 3 books made up the Lazarus contract. Each of these 3 books, I kind of want to talk about as a whole, as a Titans book, as a Teen Titans book, and as a Deathstroke book. If somebody's wondering, like, what are the books, like, I'm really invested in the Rebirth storyline, what are the titles that I really should be reading to kind of keep up with Rebirth? I think Titans is a big one. Basically anything that has Wally is going to be your through line to your Rebirth stuff. They've said Justice League, but I actually think it's going to be more Justice League America because it's going to be dealing with, if you remember, the Atom was stuck in the microverse. They're getting ready to go be dealing with the micro universe in Justice League America. So again, that's another Batman title. Justice League, it was supposed to be tying in there. I will talk about dropping Justice League here just a little bit. Hitch, he's lost me, a different story. So to me, it's the Justice League book, or excuse me, Justice League. It's the Titans book. Right now, Detective Comics is really holding the Rebirth storyline there, with having Tim Drake there being kidnapped or taken off the table. I don't know if it's it's kidnapped by Oz. So he's in the Rebirth timeline, even though, or storyline rather, even though all the books are going to have this 3-year overarching Rebirth storyline. The big one is still the Titans. That's the book you should be reading that is heavily dealing the most with the Rebirth storyline. Of course, Batman and the Flash, when they tied in with the button I'm pointing up on a wall that you can't see with my books on it. The Titans book has made me smile more than any other book that I've been reading. Like, all of the characters have been done so very well in this, and just having the real Wally West back, not that I don't like the other Wally West, but having him back and having this core team. And I love this cover here. This was a really fun issue of all of them being put into like this maze in this house, and each one of them having to work with their mentors. You have Batman and Nightwing, obviously, Flash and Flash, Wonder Woman and Donna Troy, Tempest and Aquaman. This was a fun issue. But Wally going through and reconnecting all the paths that, and all the people in his life that had forgotten about him, had their memories taken away, and then Wally trying to exist in this world of everybody's continued on without him, he feels, but he's disconnected from everything else. He's disconnected from Linda and his whole world. So everybody is remembering Wally, but the New 52 has happened. So he was in limbo for 5 years. So it's like he's had a 10-year time span, if you think about it too. If everybody else is missing 10 years and the New 52 lasted 5 years, Wally has basically lost, 10 to 15 years probably in between the two different universes. And seeing him work together with everybody and putting all this team dynamic back together, it makes it feel like the Teen Titans books of the 80s and 90s, but at the same time, it's very much a modern tale right now. And a book that I really liked, it was Bumblebee, introducing the Bumblebee character into Titans in issue 9 with Malcolm, and she suffers a total complete brain wipe at the end of this book, and it was really kind of sad. They've got a baby girl, I believe, in the story, and I'm trying to hurriedly go through this. Sorry, I apologize about this. It was just so sad seeing her. I got the wrong book. I apologize. See, very professional. Yeah, this is where, in 10, is where she goes into complete and total, I would say, vegetable state. She doesn't know who anybody is. She doesn't know who Mal is. She doesn't know who her child is. I just want to find the line in here. She ends up saving everybody. It's from Simon. Duh. I should remember that right off the bat. Simon basically does a complete mind wipe of her, and this also brings in the storyline. There's Mal right there. This actually starts the Lazarus contract. But each one of these heroes in Arsenal and Lilith and Donna and even Nightwing are going through kind of a crisis state of their own in their own lives right at the moment, trying to figure out not only what's going on in the greater scheme of their universe with having Wally back, it's every other facet of their lives. Like how different is their life really from what it was before? If Wally is saying that they're missing 5 years of their life, or 10 years of their life rather, then what other parts of their individual lives were fake or replicated? What's real, what's not real? What other parts are going to be shown to them that something that they thought was true isn't actually, or the thing that is even kind of scarier for them, the thing that they've always known and loved is actually a lie, and they don't want to let that lie go because that was real for them. Roy is really dealing with that, but he's kind of real cavalier about it. He's kind of, hey, whatever happens, happens. You know, I'm here for the ride, but secretly it's kind of really eating and tearing away at him. I think there's something brewing with Tempest that with the new Aqualad coming on the scene, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. So there's a lot going on in the Titans book, and I feel so stupid trying to accumulate, 24 issues of all these and sound like, well, then this kind of happens and this thing over here. The Titans book is really good. I probably am not selling the Titans book well enough, but it is playing through the larger Rebirth storyline right now with I'll get into those events here in just a little bit. I was going to talk about Wally real quick. Deathstroke has been a character that I've always really liked, that I've never really thought of Deathstroke in his own book before. I say Joe Prime here real quick. Says, what's your favorite comic series right now? I just started watching your feed. My favorite comic series right now, no-brainer for me, is Detective Comics, with coming up really close next month, starting the Lonely Place of Living storyline, bringing Tim Drake back in. It's got all my favorite characters in it. A book that has really surprised me is what I'm talking about right now is Deathstroke. I didn't really think I've liked Deathstroke as a character, but I've liked Deathstroke more as a character that pops into books. It's a foil for the Titans, or is a foil up against Batman. I was reading loosely Deathstroke in the New 52, but that was a book I got behind on pretty quick. So I've been slowly reading that book and then this current Deathstroke book. And the Rebirth Deathstroke book has been very, very good. Its layouts are completely different than anything that I've ever really seen before, and I kind of want to show you it's a unique way. It does time jumps very, very different. It may do it from panel to panel. It may do it from section to section, but they have different moments. It just says taxi right here. Like this particular section, you kind of see, this is actually from the Lazarus contract. You see what happens to Deathstroke here. The deal, that's kind of what it says there. I don't know why that's sticking out to me, but it's more of, this is the mini subplot in this book that's going on. This is the deal that's going to be made in these next couple panels. It may say Evergreen, 1985 or something like that. So these next series of panels are dealing with stories that take place in 1985, talking with Deathstroke's, right-hand man, sometimes when he's not being a D-bag, about Evergreen. So it's really cool. And then from book to book, or even like maybe 3 or 4 books in between, it'll have, part 1, and then 3 books later, part 2 takes place. But in the meantime, you have, it's such a unique way of telling a story that it's linear in the aspect that here's the overall story, and it's like if flashbacks are done correctly, the flashbacks continue to build on the main narrative of the story that's going through, rather than some flashbacks being a flashback that's 5 years ago and you have no idea what they're talking about, and the payoff doesn't happen for a year and a half, and you're like, oh, okay, now that panel makes sense. What Deathstroke does, we'll do a flashback of a problem that Deathstroke is happening right now, and by the end of the book, that flashback, you're like, oh, the Flash book told the exact same story that was going on right now, but it gave you another layer that plays into Deathstroke's decisions that are going on right now. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I thought that was a really unique way, and it made me really like the Deathstroke character even more. And I believe that's Priest that is on, on this book, and I'm really liking what Priest is doing on Deathstroke. Now, having said all of that, I dropped Deathstroke, which I feel bad for dropping Deathstroke. That was a book that I really, really struggled with after the events of, I'll answer your question here in just a second, Liam. After the events of Lazarus Contract, I really wanted to continue, and I got the next 2 books. Yes, I do like Marvel, and I think I have my Marvel comic box somewhere close. I'm a big fat liar, and I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Watch this. This is where everything falls over. Oh, it did. It wouldn't be live. I am not shown. We're going to get off topic here real quick. I will show you. There's Captain America number 294. If you know what 294 is, and if you know what the Mighty Avengers 242 is, and the Amazing Spider-Man 251 are, it is the start of this little book that you probably never heard about, Secret Wars. So I was reading Marvel as a kid. My favorite Marvel superhero, I even have this, The Death of Aunt May. Probably should have it bag and boarded. I loved Marvel as a kid. I still like, I go all of the Marvel movies. I enjoy all of them. At the end of the day, I'm a DC fan, and picking up books, as I dropped some of them on the floor. Luckily, they were none of my Marvel books. At the end of the day, really professional here. At the end of the day, when I'm buying comics, I've always been a DC guy. So let's just say I've got a budget for $30 for comics for the week, or $25. I try and keep it to. There's so many DC books I want to buy. If my budget's $25, if I buy a Marvel book, that means I have to drop a DC book that I'm buying, and it's been so long. Like, those were probably the last Marvel books I bought, with the exception of the Jim Lee 90s X-Men book here or there. I haven't been gravitating enough to be reading Marvel, to be perfectly honest. So, not that I don't like them. I love them in the movies. I've got some of their action figures, but I'm a DC guy at heart, so that's why I chose a DC comic show. Because I thought with Comic Corner, somebody could be thinking, oh, you're going to be reading, talking about The Walking Dead, or you're going to be talking about, whatever it is. I'm like, no, it's going to be always DC, so there you go. Do I have any DC Dark Knight Returns figures or collectibles? Yeah, I do. They're over here just off the side. I can't get to them. But I have reviewed them. Go back through my channel and you can see that I reviewed some of them. No, I have not watched any of the Marvel Netflix series at all. Working a lot of overtime, and my wife wants to watch a lot of that stuff with me. She's been studying for a master's class, so we only watch about 1 or 2 shows a night. And she's like, let's get through the test. And she's been testing for about 2 years now. Like, she'll take a test. She'll study for a test, which she'll study for about 4 or 5 months for, and then take her test, and then almost immediately go right back into another test. And she's like, right now, trying to go, okay, we got to watch this show, and binge watch an entire season. It's going to take us forever to watch, so we're going to kind of wait till she's done with her schooling aspect for her job. It's not even for like college. This is for her job, for that she's got to have continuing education for. So there's some stuff that you may not know. So that's why we haven't watched any. We just haven't had the time. So watching like Big Bang Theory, she's like, okay, we can squeeze in a half-hour show, and then bam, she's right back to studying. So I'm still behind on Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow. I have not seen the musical number that I was complaining about all that time. That's how far back we are on those shows, and all of those shows are getting ready to start. So yeah, that's all that. So back to Daredevil. See, now I'm on the whole Marvel kick. Back to Deathstroke. So going through Deathstroke in Rebirth, Jericho, or reuniting with Jericho and Rose and all of his kids, and more importantly, his son that had died in previous continuity in I'm losing my train of thought here. Kind of coming out of the Deathstroke first appearance in the new Teen Titans. I think of the book. This is where the Lazarus contract kind of comes into play here, and I kind of want to talk about Teen Titans before getting into the Lazarus contract as proper. Teen Titans, of course, is a Damian Wayne-led story, which I like how everything kind of spawned out of the New 52. Damian comes into Teen Titans now being age 13. He's taking over the Teen Titans for the missing, presumed dead. Actually, dead as far as they're concerned, Tim Drake. So Damian's kind of thrust himself into that role. So you've got Beast Boy, Starfire, and Raven kind of going, all right, we've got the little bastard son of Bruce Wayne taking over the Teen Titans. It's kind of starting to rub people the wrong way. We have an old plot thread going in from the pre-New 52 with Damian and his grandfather. So I really like how Rebirth as a whole is just pulling all of these story beats in, where I feel like the New 52 was this box, like everything can only exist in this space right here. We have this finite 5-year timeline. That's all that it's ever going to be. And I think it really held the hand of some writers. Like, as much as I complained about Scott Lobdell, I think the shortcomings of his Titans book was really based around the New 52. He had to create all this other crap that didn't exist before because they didn't want to use anything else previously, which now in Rebirth with Jeff Johns overseeing it, going, the history and the legacy of all these characters should and needs to matter, which people are saying his Red Hood run, Lobdell's, is actually a lot better than his New 52 Red Hood run, because he can now use things from everybody's past. So that's not a flag waving for Scott Lobdell there at all. I still hate what he did to the Teen Titans and Tim Drake, but anyway, that's that. But the Teen Titans has been another solid book for me. I'm trying to find their book here. Here's this part of the Lazarus contract. I like that they're bringing back Aqualad, especially with Young Justice getting ready to come back. We're going to see this version of Aqualad. Now, I don't remember, somebody can help me out there, was Calder, was he gay? Not that that's a problem. I just don't remember that being a part of his makeup for old continuity, and even in, I don't believe that's even addressed in Young Justice. But it's an interesting take on Calder. Here, and of course, his father is still Black Mana. Liam, I cannot wait for Young Justice. This is going to be great to have the Young Justice brought back. 4 years, and the Young Justice is finally coming back. So I really like Aqualad, that they're bringing him back into the forefront in Justice League, in Teen Titans. It feels like a well-rounded team. So the first arc of Teen Titans, I thought you're right. I don't think his sexuality was addressed. I thought maybe I was missing something because I didn't read too many books from before, but I like that it adds that layer to him. Yeah, I hope Wally isn't dead either. I would like, what would be really cool in Young Justice, to get on a Young Justice tangent, if they pulled a Rebirth moment with Wally, because he just vanished in that final thing where they're all running around a circle, and Wally just kind of gets absorbed in. So nothing tells me he's dead. I mean, he's probably very much going to be alive. He just lost in a time stream somewhere. Then it's a rebirth moment. He comes back and says, "We've been missing 4 years." So, yeah, Wally must return. Which Young Justice is all about time jumps. So it'd be really cool if they did a 4-year time jump, you know, on purpose, because it's been 4 years since the Young Justice 2 season ended, and then Wally comes back from the missing 4 years and has to tell everybody what's been going on. So anyway, I'm trying to tie it into Rebirth, which would be cool. Yeah, Liam, if Wally is your favorite character, then I really, really recommend reading the Titans book. This is where you're going to find Wally. He kind of appears in the Flash every now and then, but Titans is where you're really going to find Wally. And he sounds and acts very much like Wally. Excuse me. So, getting back to Deathstroke here really quick, it's been a fun book, but I'll explain why I dropped it here. So the big thing is the Lazarus contract. The Lazarus contract, I think, is a companion piece to the Judas contract, which came out in the mid-'80s. Is it as good as the Judas contract? I'll say no, but that doesn't mean it's still not a good story. This is all revolving around Deathstroke wanting his son back. And he is also somebody else, which the through point of Rebirth is kind of in the Deathstroke book too, which he notices from time to time, but it's mainly in some of the last few pages before getting into the Lazarus contract, is he sees Wally, recognizes or notices a different speedster that's not the African-American Wally West that he's used to because of the new timeline. Yes, the animated movies are good too, Liam. So he's realizing there's actually now 3 speedsters. You've got Flash. Is it Flash? Is it the Flash and Flash? They're probably both called the Flash. But Wally's Flash and the Kid Flash. So he's realizing that if something is missing from this universe, and that Wally West Flash came back from a different time stream, that must mean I may be able to get my son back that had died all those years ago. So this is all playing going back into right before the Judas contract had happened. What's up, Mr. J? Right before the Judas contract happened, where Deathstroke lost his son. So this is his big thing. He's willing to risk and move heaven and earth to get his son back, and will do it at all costs. So he ends up capturing both versions of Wally West, and it's having Kid Flash Wally West basically on the cosmic treadmill create like a time paradox to be able to go back into time and save his son Grant from the moment before he died. And it's kind of, it's the trope of every time you go back, you screw something up, and he tries to go back to the moment where he saves Grant, and Grant still dies. He makes Wally run back. This is Kid Flash right now. Keeps going back to a different time point, and he's got Wally running or vibrating at such high rate speed. But Deathstroke is actually the one that's teleporting, so it's not any of the Flashes that are teleporting. He's making Kid Flash teleport. He's got it into his exosuit, so Deathstroke has brief moments where he can run really quick and be able to teleport back and forth between different timelines, as long as he has one or both Wallys hooked up to this machine at the same time. So every time he comes into contact with Grant, Grant is living essentially in the 80s, or wherever that time frame fits in, but 80s for less than remember, where Grant hates his father. He's hated everything that Deathstroke has done, has been a D-bag of a father to every one of his kids, and Grant knows it. So he never wants to listen to his dad, and rightfully so, even though Deathstroke is pleading with him, you're going to die, this thing's going to happen, I'm trying to save you so we can be father and son. A little Star Wars reference there, which I thought was a kind of a cool nod. And he's not wanting to have it. So he's witnessing his son dying over and over and over again. And Deathstroke's part of the storyline, him coming out going, instead of living in the past, if he's going to ever be perceived as anything more than just a hitman and a mob enforcer, like working for, not mob enforcer, but working for the money, like I'm going to take out a contract on you, and I'm going to end your life, and I'm going to get paid for it. No hard feelings. This is just a job. If he's ever going to be thought of any more than that, then he needs to make a change in his life. And working at the villain side of thing is not working out for him. He can't get through to his kids. Then maybe becoming a hero is his next best possible solution. So that's Deathstroke's storyline. What ends up happening to Wally, our red-haired Wally West, is he's been traveling back and forth through different timelines, trying to pull things back together. And every time Wally travels through timelines, he's constantly afraid that he's going to get sucked into the time stream and not come out. It's harder and harder every time for him. And I think there's a little bit of resistance of being scared. Like, I got sucked into this thing once, and all these problems that Deathstroke are creating, Wally's trying to help uncreate them and foil Deathstroke. And this is causing a huge, major problem. So in one moment, and this is where people may not like Damien, this is a spoiler here. If you've not read the Lazarus contract and you are not reading the current Titans or Teen Titans, it deals with it a little bit. It doesn't really deal with Deathstroke. This is going to be a huge spoiler for you. So I will do this to let you know when I'm done talking about it. So be warned. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. While Wally is trying to, I forget if he's running back or forward. Make a funny motion when you're done. I will use. This is a huge spoiler. So here we go. So while Wally is running back and forth, trying to fix the time, Damien is convincing Wally, you need to do this. The worlds are kind of converging on themselves. The Titans from the old universe are showing up. Everybody's fighting against one another. And Deathstroke now has the ability to do all the speed stuff. He is going to effectively destroy the universe of a time stream, and Wally has to be able, he's the only one that has the speed enough to be able to go back and do it. So when he does, he's kind of vibrating in place and is stuck. He and Kid Flash are both working to get Deathstroke out of there and pull him from making a huge change that's going to change the universe. So Deathstroke is able to come out of the time stream. Kid Flash is able to come out of the time stream, and Wally is stuck. And the only way that Damien can think to get Wally out of the time stream is to push him and hit him right in the chest. And when he does that, it knocks Wally out, but now Wally's heart is out of rhythm, and if he runs again, he'll die. There. So that's the big thing. That's your spoiler, Olivia. We're back. So, and don't type it in off to the side, so that way Automatica doesn't get spoiled by this. Now, I have not read past the Lazarus contract in Titans or Teen Titans because I've been catching up on Detective Comics. So I'm curious to see what happens with Wally's character and what happens with Deathstroke's character and how Damien is perceived after the events of the Lazarus contract. I thought it was a really, really good story. You know, I don't think you're going to compare the Lazarus contract and the Judas contract and go, these are both perfect stories. The Judas contract is a great, great story written by Wolfman and Perez. Priest and everybody else that's, what is it, Priest does 2 of them, and I'm losing who did, a Bennett, I believe. They all kind of pulled together and wrote the story. What's up, Soul Drum? For the Lazarus contract. I thought this was a really, really solid story. I found it very captivating the whole way through. I was excited to read this whole entire thing. There were enough parallels to the previous Judas contract where there really isn't, this isn't a spoiler, there really isn't a Judas. It's more about a literal contract that was taken out, that Deathstroke says, I want these 2 Wallies to help me travel back in time to get my son. if that does not happen, I will kill every single one of you, or I will go after the girlfriend of Wally West that doesn't even know he's supposed to be a girlfriend. He's going to go out and take out certain other things. So if you don't do this, I'm going to resurrect the contract that my son Grant had out on the Titans. I'm going to take out all the Titans, not just the Titans, the Teen Titans as well. So that's where the Lazarus contract as a whole comes from. It's the picking up the literal contract that Grant had clear back in the 80s in that storyline, which I think makes this even so much better, that they really, something that I really like about Rebirth as a whole, they're bringing back things from the other universes and coalescing them into nice one story. And yeah, Mr. J, I think the Lazarus contract would work very well as an animated feature. So I think it's been really good, and it's been cool to see Aqualad get added in here, and Beast Boy and Starfire are great in the books. Just all the Titans, and it kind of made me a Deathstroke fan. So the reason I dropped Deathstroke, that I got behind on a lot of these books, not because they weren't my favorite to read. Well, they were always at the bottom of my pile. I always read Detective, and then I read Batman, and then I read some other stuff. But I read through 24 issues of Deathstroke from the very beginning to the very end. The same thing with Wonder Woman. I'm starting to work through Wonder Woman, which I'll eventually talk about that on this show. And I'm like, I have 2 years worth of Deathstrokes, 2 years worth of Wonder Woman. I've got 2 years worth of Flash and Green Arrow, which I've decided to keep those because I still like those characters. Almost 2 years worth of Justice League, and then Justice League America, which I was up to, 6 issues because it's only been through this last half of the year. We're going to get a Starfire in Titans TV show coming up very soon. She's already been cast. She's from 24, the new 24 TV series. I can't think of her name. But so I made the decision. Those were at the bottom of my pile every month. So in order to save me money, I dropped those books. So maybe that I'll pick up Deathstroke in a trade and read it as a whole trade, as opposed to picking up, a $2.99 comic every single, couple weeks or every month or whatever it is. I really kind of want to know what happens with Deathstroke. I have the first 2 issues where he's in hero phase. The last thing with Kid Flash is it could be spoiler-ish. So Olivia, if you don't want to know this one, it's not huge. If you've seen the cover of Deathstroke's comic where they're all dressed in white, you already know this. So spoilers: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kid Flash has been kicked out of the Titans and is now in Deathstroke's team. But I think I saw a solicitation recently. The Kid Flash realizes, what's up, Strawberry? That he might be trying to come back to Titans. So spoilers over. So that's not a huge spoiler. Like I said, this Lazarus contract has been out for quite a while. I think all the Marvel shows, Liam, are tied into the MCU. I don't know how much we'll hear about it in the movies, maybe a passing line, but yeah, all the Marvel shows are tied in. So one of the last section of books, I'll save the big one for last here, is Detective Comics. This is my favorite book of Rebirth. And if you saw the description of how many books, I read through all of these books through 943 up to the most recent 963, all in a span of 2 weeks. So for being my favorite book of Rebirth, was one of the books that sat on my not read pile for the longest, just from work and everything else. Excuses. Sorry about that. Cottonmouth. Rob's been talking a lot. So I'll try and go through some of these pretty quick. If you're not reading Detective Comics and you love the Batman family, I love that we have a Batman family book, and Batman is definitely here and present in all of these books. But I like that we're getting Batwing and Clayface and Red Robin and Stephanie and Cassandra. I think I already did. I say Clayface? Clayface is so awesome in this book. This to me, this is the Bat book to be reading. I like the Tom King Batman book, but man, it doesn't get any better than this. The Victim Syndicate was kind of where a lot of this started out, and I like how you can see Cassandra there. This is kind of a story of Cassandra Cain and her dealing with who and what she is. And excuse me, that's not the Victim Syndicate was a story of Mrs. starting to put the divide in between Stephanie Brown and everyone on the Bat team, with previously losing Tim Drake dying, which we know he's alive, but nobody else knows that. Stephanie's completely upset at Batman for saying, you caused all of this. All of this is completely your fault, your problem. I lost my boyfriend. You lost a son. How many other people have been put in danger because you and the rest of us all put on these costumes and we're not taking responsibility for our actions, and are we causing more harm than we're doing good? So Stephanie ends up breaking away from the team, and the Victim Syndicate are victims of Batman to some degree. They were collateral damage, in other words. Batman was going after the Joker or the Penguin or Scarecrow for one instance, and somebody got caught up in some fear toxin. Because of Batman apprehending the Scarecrow, they've now have superpowers of their own, and their life has been changed because of it, and it's Batman's fault. So you end up finding out through the course of that story that Stephanie Brown kind of sides with them, but she's literally becoming the spoiler and trying to spoil Batman from going after some of these criminals and trying to thwart Batman taking care of the Batman and the team. Sending Batman on the team on wild goose chases where they're not needed. So Stephanie's kind of aligning herself more, I wouldn't say on the villain side, more of the spoiler side, where she was originally spoiling her father's crimes from happening and letting the police know. Now she's spoiling Batman for being heroic. So I thought that was really kind of an interesting take. Luke Fox comes in to the story at this point, which I just picked up. Luke Fox found this figure at a Walmart that I don't even normally go to. I drove quite a ways to go for supper last night, and there he was. So, Luke Fox, there you go. So that's kind of the Victim Syndicate, where at the end of that story, all the victims are caught back up, and Batman is really wanting to. He's saying, "I'm sorry." And Stephanie's also holding all the identities of all the heroes hostage. If you don't stop being Batman, essentially, if you don't take off your mask privately and stop, I'm going to let all this information out digitally across the spectrum, and I'll put an end to your Batman run right here and now. So Batman ends up calling Stephanie's bluff. You kind of see them having an argument here. Really cool cover. She's saying, it's your fault, Batman. Everyone near you dies. So this is her issue of dealing with Tim's death, which, and a cool thing, Tim put in a hologram in the bell tower so people can have somebody to interact with if Tim was on mission somewhere. Now it's their only way of interacting with Tim when he's dead. So I thought that was kind of cool. And Stephanie talks to Tim quite a bit through this. So that was that particular run. Batman calls Stephanie's bluff, and she doesn't release all the information, but she's still very much upset with Stephanie. We have a Batwoman storyline here that kind of launches the Batwoman title, which I've been loosely reading it. Yes, I played all the Arkham games. Love them, Liam. As you can see, all the Arkham figures back here, even the ones that have fallen here off to the side. So huge Arkham fan. I've done some gameplay on my channel. If you go backwards, I've played through all of the Arkham games, Arkham Asylum, City, and Knight. I wanted to play through Origins, but I couldn't broadcast it through the PlayStation. what was it, PlayStation Live feature, not live, the app thing. It won't let you broadcast it. So I'm trying to find some way to play and broadcast and commentate on Origins, which I really, really love Arkham Origins. The Batwoman series, I'm not currently reading, which Automatica says can't wait till Mattel releases the Batwoman figure. Yeah, that's a figure I can't wait for. She hopes that we get some more articulation, unlike Duke. Yeah, Duke should have had some more articulation. I'm not reading the Batwoman story in Detective, excuse me, her comic. I'm picking up comics that are loosely tying in to Detective Comics as a whole, but I've never been a fan of Batwoman. Not that I hated her or anything like that. That was just one more title to buy when she was in Detective Comics for a while during RIP. But I've really come to like Kate and the Batwoman character because of Rebirth Detective Comics. So it's making me go, maybe I'll pick up the Batwoman solo book. But this particular issue, 949, launches the Batwoman Rebirth title, which I did pick up that first issue, and I enjoyed it. So that's just kind of setting up her and her father. Bruce has her father locked up in the bell tower because he's the one that's marginally responsible for killing Tim Drake, since he had sent all the drones out that are going to go out and level the whole entire city. I'm looking at Mr. J here. So, boo, Rob, just kidding. Batwoman's really cool. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of good things about Batwoman. So that might be a book I might pick up. And maybe rather than pick it up by book, maybe I will pick this one up by trade, and I'll just read it as a trade. Kind of save myself some money, and I'll just wait for the trade on that one. But I think that's what I might do. We have the anniversary special, which was a really good story that kind of sets off the Lady Shiva story and Cassandra Cain's history, which I thought was a really nice and very touching story that they had set up, with Cassandra wondering who she really is. Is she this cold-blooded assassin like her father, and then her mother is a cold-blooded assassin? So it's her dealing with, who am I? Am I the progeny of both of my parents? It is my lot in life to just be this killer. Do I not have a heart, a home? I have no family. And she's realizing that Batman and this team are her family. She loves to watch ballet. She kind of spooks and surprises this girl who's doing ballet that ends up befriending Cassandra. And Cassandra's lost one of her best friends in Stephanie Brown. Harper Row is still there, but she's not an active superhero anymore. So Cassandra kind of feels like she's out in limbo all by herself. Yeah, Liam just kind of said, you don't get why Mattel can't make figures and articulation the way Hasbro does. Right now, I'm kind of digging what Mattel's doing. I think they're starting at the right point. They're starting from where they left at and are trying to improve things as they go. I've said before, you can get all kinds of crazy articulation. I've got some Marvel Legends figures that will not stand for the life of them because they've got so much wonky articulation. Their ab crunches are all over the place. The ankle joints are so flopsy and flimsy. If we just get good ab crunches, double knees, double elbows, leave the rest of the figure alone. They've got a really good base. So that's my comment on that one. So that's Cassandra Cain's story, which Lady Shiva ends up escaping, and Cassandra realizes who and what she is and is happy with who and what she is. She was kind of looking for approval for her father, but all she got was disapproval. And from her mother, all she was getting was disapproval. And the only way that Cassandra can know who she truly is if she kills Lady Shiva, which is almost virtually impossible. But Cassandra does it in such a way that doesn't kill her, but beats her in such a way that Lady Shiva has no choice but to respect her. Automatica and Liam here talking about the production photos. It's like they'll set up the production stuff. Sometimes I wonder with the figures if they produce a figure, this is what we want to try and do, and then they realize, nah, we don't quite have it, or that's going to cost too much. Let's go back to the way things were. So I do agree. You're going to show this is what the figure looks like, and then I buy the figure, and it doesn't work like you showed the production. Then don't make it the production way. So that people would still buy Duke and be happy with the version of Duke that they have if that's how he looked during the production photos. So I totally agree with that. Soul Drum says he's picked up the Justice League Flash and Aquaman. You are talking these guys right here. There's the Flash. I can understand with some of the movie figures, people are complaining that they don't have the ab crunches in there. Batman does. Cyborg in there. I'm thinking with some of these figures that they're wanting to treat them more like, we've done a lot of sculpting, and I really don't want to mess up the sculpt of the figure, so we're not going to. I don't get that. They still could have put that in there, but I'm fine with it. That's cool. If you want more articulation, you can get it from Mafex, from Mattel. I just want a version of the character that works and operates that I can move to somewhat degree, and I'm happy with. Moving into the latter part of the books here with the Azrael storyline and a Batwing storyline with having Duke, excuse me, not Duke, Luke and Jean Paul trying to figure out what the system is doing to Azrael, and also Batman wanting to try and have Zatanna. This was a really good story, the Batman Zatanna couple issues. Batman's still heartbroken as Batman can be, trying to get over the loss of Tim Drake, and knows that Zatanna can do some stuff with magic and bring things back, or try and right some of the things that have happened. And at one point, Zatanna has said that she would do anything for Bruce. And I think this is one of Bruce's earliest first loves that he had. It was kind of like that unrequited, I think that's the word I want to say, where they never both really say to one another the I love yous back and forth. It's kind of understood, kind of not. I like her, but does she like me type of thing. And that leads into picking back up with the Azrael story thread with one of the coolest covers to come out in a while. Is the Asbat suit has been brought back again. So rather than Azrael, Asbats come back, and I love the Jacques cover here. So very cool. Rather than having Bane break Batman's back and Azrael take on the mantle of Asbats, again, replacing Bruce Wayne, Luke is realizing the system is implanted in Jean-Paul through his helmet and through his suit, that the more he's wearing it, the brainwashing is kind of being enhanced by the suit. So Luke creates a default suit that's putting in Batman's ideologies to underwrite and suppress Azrael's kind of bloodthirsting, killing spree, or holding the system back, not bloodthirsty killing spree, but holding the system back at bay, where Azrael just kind of goes off the rails for a little bit. He now has the moral code of, I won't kill, and I'm not going to do all these things that Batman would do, built into that suit. So that's kind of a cool way of bringing that back in to Azrael, to the Asbats costume, while Batman is still right there. So you've got like a second Batman now essentially running around. And the big reveal in this book, which is no spoilers, because of the robotic creature that they're fighting in this book that has some and also ties in with Zatanna. Excuse me, it's magical to some degree. This robotic suit tells Bruce that this creature that they're fighting, that Tim Drake is alive. And that's kind of where that cliffhanger ends right there. So Detective Comics has been so good, and I can't wait for Tim Drake to be back. I'm looking at Strawberry Fields here. Says, I wish DC Films would come back and do Justice League figures. Yeah, that'd be really cool. If DC, you're talking DC Collectibles, I believe. This is Mr. J is hoping once we receive the wave shown in the convention, DC Multiverse will get the rest of Legends of Tomorrow's wave. I want a Steel figure. So, yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool to see some of those come out. The last books I'm going to talk about today, and I think this show is going to be this long. I've got to get ready to have lunch with the wife here soon. But let's talk about The Forge. I've got all of the covers for The Forge here. And the casting, and again, I have all the covers here. For $3, I've got a lot of covers. They're the last of the casting. And the newest and just come out Metal, which I don't know if some people, I think some people realize this, that this cover is this. Good old Snyder and Capullo right there. So I've got all these covers. There are a ton more. I'm not going to get all of them, but these are the main covers that have come out. Batman riding a dinosaur. Wonder Woman. Come on. Too many books here. Batman and Mongol. And then the Midnight variant, which a comic book store I went to happened to have 3 of these left, so I did pick up a couple of those. So, DC Metal. I think it's just as crazy and zany as Scott Snyder and Capullo have been talking about. It feels wacky a little bit in some spots. I'll get into a complaint here in just a second out of the Forge and the cast. The casting, I believe, Metal is going to be all Capullo, with the variant covers by John Romita Jr. and Andy Kubert. And then probably a few other people here. I know Jacques is doing a special variant. So you got the story of Hawkman, you got the story of Duke Thomas, Green Lantern, and you got the story of Batman running through the Forge and the casting. Batman figuring out, you know, about the metal that has been in the universe for a while, and there's this new threat, this new thing that is coming that Batman's trying to figure out. Well, I believe that, I'm assuming from what I'm reading, unless I'm stupid, which I could be, that Batman has Hawkman's journal. So you kind of get the overall arcing. Hawkman is talking about the things that have happened to him through the reincarnating of lives and getting in touch with the nth metal. While Duke, I should just back up. The Green Lanterns have sent out Hal Jordan on a secret mission that nobody else knows about. Arrowverse Deathstroke would be a cool Arrowverse figure. There is one from DC Collectibles, but Mattel hasn't done one yet. Has Hal Jordan kind of going off the grid to go find this thing that's very important for the Guardians to get a hold of. I think they talk about the metal. There's something in Bruce Wayne's Batcave that he needs to go after. Duke is there to kind of ward him off. While that's going on, they're going through a locked vault of Batmans that neither one of them realized that he had. And it's got everything from the New 52 and then multiple, you know, continuity time streams as well that's in there. And what he also has locked in his vault is the Joker. On the Hawkman side, it's just him going through acquiring the nth metal and all the events that kind of took place while that's going on. And then Batman's is going through Mr. Terrific, finding Plastic Man at some point, so he's going to be brought back into the universe. I think I said Wonder Woman and Superman tracking down to get to the metal which all kind of converges back in the Bat Cave. And Duke Thomas finally gets his stage name, for lack of a better word. The Signal, am I the only one that's kind of meh on the Signal? So essentially, the Signal is going to be daytime Batman. You know, Bruce Wayne Batman operates during the night, and the Signal is going to be out during the day. And the Joker names Duke Thomas the Signal, which I thought was kind of funny. So it's going to grow on me. They probably could have said any name for Duke Thomas, and I would have probably been like, eh. Probably in the next couple months or whatever, I'll be like, yeah, the Signal's really cool. So, so they're really trying to bring up Duke Thomas as a main player in the DC. My whole thing is, I don't want you to bring up Duke Thomas and then cut away somebody else. Don't get rid of Tim. Don't get rid of Jason. Don't get rid of Dick or Cassandra. Because like, oh, the Bat family's too crowded. Let's get rid of somebody. Let's quit creating people. And then we won't have to worry of like Harper Row. What's she done? Scott Snyder created Harper Row, but she's only been in a handful of books, and she was in Batman and Robin Eternal for that whole entire run, and now nothing. So I don't think Duke Thomas is going to go by the way of the dodo bird like Harper Row did, but if the universe is crowded, then why are you still doing that? A lot of these figures you guys are talking about, which I know they're from the Legends of Tomorrow, kind of like with Automatica, sometimes I'm not picking up those figures. Like the Atom is in this wave. I don't need the TV universe of the Atom. I think they should have done a whole universe. Like if you're going to do a whole like Legends of Tomorrow, then give us a whole Legends of Tomorrow wave. But I think this is a way to get people to buy these figures because of a collect and connect. That somebody like me, it's like, I really don't want this figure. But if there was a whole wave for you guys out there that want the TV figures, then you can buy this whole wave, and I'll go, I'll pass on it. I'll wait till the next comic wave comes out. But that's my little 2 cents on that. So, and then we get to Metal. So the Forge and the Casting are basically one, kind of giant story. Use my handy-dandy little book here. Pardon me as I'm trying to get to the Metal. This is where the crazy, zany story comes into play here that Snyder and Capullo were talking about. The superheroes, the Justice League, basically become a transformer at one point in this because of the metal that's in here. We have the Red Tornado coming back in, which I think is really pretty cool. And then the Dark Knights, different versions of evil versions of Batman that assume the role of the Justice League characters of, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, etc., Cyborg. You get all that. Dr. Fate has been brought back in here. And the biggest thing, which if you've not read this, I'm going to show you the last page. Could be spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Sandman. I have not read an ounce of a Sandman comic ever in my life. I have no idea who Sandman is, what he's capable of. Neil Gaiman, I think, wrote Sandman, like one of the big ones that people like to talk about. I can understand he's a cool character. It's doing nothing for me, so I'm excited on the front of going, I'm at least going to find out what the big deal about Sandman is. Some people are upset that DC as a whole, is trying to add everything that they've ever created into one gigantic universe. Should the Watchmen just be left alone on their own and Sandman be left on their own? Or should a publishing company like DC going, yeah, all of our properties should be able to exist in this universe? So we'll see what Metal ends up doing. The first issue, was crazy, bonkers, and I feel like this issue starts where we're going to be 6 months from now, or almost a year from now. If this is going to go 12 issues, I think that we're going to realize, oh, that's why all the Justice League members got captured and Mongol has them, and they're going to fight to the death. You know, we'll see about that. So that was my gigantic comic corner, and I probably didn't do very well at talking about all the books. But when there's so many books and it's taken me, you know, a couple weeks to kind of cram all this stuff in at one point, some of the details get a little fuzzy. But I promise you, once we get down to single issues, I can talk about them a little bit more effectively. This is for a podcast. I'd only been talking about 3 books, and I would have gone through them with a fine-tooth comb. So the comic corners are going to be a little large and beefier for a while. I'm planning on doing them every Friday as long as I can. In September, I'm going away on a trip for a while, so we're going to miss a couple of those unless I pre-record something and I just put it up there. Thanks for you guys that were chiming in. I love seeing stuff being scrolled off to the side here. Of course, talking about action figures. As soon as I get off from doing this, that sounds bad, that's what she said, I'm going to upload my next Justice League figure, which I think it's Cyborg. If it's not, it's probably this guy. Very cool. And then I've got, I already showed you Batwing, but I was also able to pick up from DC comic book, or excuse me, Collectors Exchange. Get this from they were able to pick this up from somebody there. So cool to have the Reaper as well. So I'll get these reviews up before too long, but I got the Justice League figures to finish rounding out that series of reviews. So I apologize with the content on the channel. There was a point where I almost thought about stopping completely. Not doing Comic Corner, not doing action figures. Sometimes it's been a little difficult trying to get things reviewed, and sometimes the passion, the fire there that I first had, but I got like a new wind under my sail. I'm enjoying podcasting and talking about comics. Yes, you're going to see some action figure stuff here. Of course, with the Justice League movie coming out and all these different waves from Mattel, Mattel has kind of sucked me back in as I'm looking at my Rebirth Batman that I reviewed a little while back. So channel's going to be around for a little bit longer yet. I really appreciate all subscribers for watching. I'm sorry the content has been intermittent, but now that I'm out of the summer and things can kind of get back to a normal time, as I'm looking at a clock here, content's going to be coming back more frequently to Rob's Room. So thanks everybody that was watching. I'd like to give shout outs to everybody. To Liam, Mr. J, Automatica, Strawberry Fields Forever, Soul Drum, I believe that's everybody. Everybody. So I'm singing Backstreet Boys. All right. So this is where I'm going to end the show. Thanks for watching. Sorry this went on a little longer. I kind of rambled there, but I like having discussions with you guys. And I would like to do a rogue show with everybody so we can all be on camera and talk to one another. We haven't done that in a while. I think all of us have just celebrated 5 years of all knowing each other. 4 of my closest friends that live so far away from me has been made possible from doing a YouTube channel. So happy anniversary. Happy 5 year to every rogue out there. Automatica, Chapman Films, Stu Murray 47, ODC, that's me, and this knucklehead, 5 years together. 5 for 5. $5 foot long. I think we're going to have Subway today. So I'm going to stop rambling right here. Thanks for watching Rob's Rogues and the newly titled Rob's Rogues DC Comic Show Episode 1, just because I saw other people having comic corners. So I went with the generic name. Episode 2 will be next Friday. I guarantee it. I want to try and do them at 10 o'clock. That way I get up, have a chance to eat, get some breakfast in me, read any couple books I need to, and then 10 o'clock. So next Friday, 10 o'clock, be here for Rob's Rogues DC Comic Show Episode Dos. And in the meantime, stick around for a little bit. In another 20 minutes, you'll have a review to watch. So see you guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Peace. Metal.